Okay, bye.
Bye. Hello to everyone else. Welcome to episode one. Nope, one.
How? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm sorry.
One of many.
This is episode one of the rest of your lives. This is episode 229. Is that correct? I don't even
Yes.
know. Okay, great.
Of the rest of your lives. You've made it to the next chapter. You've done it. You're
You've
here.
done it.
You're in
Welcome.
the new phase of life.
This is so embarrassing.
What
Hi,
did you say?
everybody.
Did you say recently you were like, oh, we were trying to title our episode so we could send the audio to Eva, and you were like, what episode is this? 5? And I was like, girl, it's been a little longer than 5.
I think I said one again. I think I just keep saying it's episode one. I don't know what is going on.
I appreciate the newness that you still feel for
I'm
the show,
trying to
though.
bring a
That's
fresh
nice.
energy to the table. Okay.
Is this podcast a newborn baby? What's
This
happening?
is a fresh infant. Welcome. Emmethy, hello. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I this has been a busy week.
This is y'all, this is a chaotic week. It's true. I don't know what's going on, but we're really overwhelmed. I
It's
guess I
very
do.
meant it's very like meant like written in the stars as like Gemini season. It's like just the most chaos I've felt in a long time.
It is. It is. The the problem is, Em and I both separately had vacations planned, and they both happened to not coincide. They both happened to not overlap for a single hour.
Literally
It,
kiss at the end of when
yeah,
Christine lands and I leave, and
exactly,
they're both
exactly.
long trips. And so
Yeah, yeah.
we've
I
been
mean,
trying to
mine is 4 days, but yours is pretty long, I think.
mine's pretty long.
Um,
Mine's 10 days, I think, because I'm gonna be like close to Florida. And so while I'm there, I was like, I should also
well,
see
where
my
are you going?
grandparents.
Tell us.
I'm going to the Bahamas, which
I know I'm
is
so jealous.
so I don't know how to feel about it because I I mean I'm excited that like I get to go. I'm lucky enough that I get to go, but um I haven't been, so we used to go every year. That was like the big family trip every year.
Whoa.
And so I used to go all the time when I was a kid, but I haven't gone since high school. I don't think, or maybe since like the first year of college. So a lot of time has passed. And we used to have like all these things that like we always saw and we always did when we got there. But literally we've like changed families since. Like there's been a
Sure,
new
sure, sure.
marriage and there's new kids
Traded
and
them
there's
in, traded them out.
yeah, there's new dynamics now. And so I don't know, like also it's been like what 10 years, so I don't know what it looks like anymore. So I used to be really excited because I like knew all the things I wanted to do and all the things that we had planned, and now I feel like I'm going on like someone else's family trip and I'm like I don't know what like what am I doing each day. So I'm a little nervous because I still think about going there as a kid and like not being able to just like as an adult say I'm gonna go do this fucking thing and like see y'all. So
Yeah,
I have to
yeah.
break out of that mindset where it's like I'm a grown ass adult and if I want to go do something my family doesn't want to, I can just go do it.
You can
But
do it.
I'm thinking in the headspace of like mom already made plans for every day, and so like anyway it's weird. It's gonna be weird traveling at all, especially out of the country. It's going to be
Yes.
weird seeing my family for that long. I don't know what my mom and I are like with after 10 days together. I
Oh,
have a guess.
I can't wait
I
for the
have a
text
guess.
messages and FaceTimes though.
Also, we have officially smuggled Deirdre into the mix, and so she'll be
Yes.
there.
I
So
was hoping.
I'm very excited. That was a last minute decision where I was like, just buy a ticket and let's see
An
how this
important
goes.
decision.
So yeah, so Deirdre's coming. So
I'm so excited.
I also haven't hung out with Deirdre for 10 days in a row in
Oh,
a long
how
time. So
fun.
that's the thing I'm probably most excited about.
That'll be fun. Well, I am going on a baby moon with Renee, which I was like,
Romantic.
it's so romantic. Blaze was like, I was like, oh, there's this thing called a baby moon. And he's like, well, I'm going to a bachelor party at some point in August. And I was like, okay, I'm going on a baby moon to Palm Springs with Renee. So I'm very excited.
What are your
I
plans to? So I don't really understand like what there is to do these days in Palm Springs.
so I will be rather pregnant, so I'm not going to be doing too much. And like, I'm one of those people who, when I vacation, I know you and I are pretty opposite. Like, I just love to like eat and chill, and like I'm not a big like activities person, but we do have some things planned. I rented a really fun car that Renee doesn't know about, so it's a surprise.
Oh my god.
And I'm really excited about that. It's gonna be like our kind of like honeymoon. Like I'm pretending it's like our honeymoon.
No, I would. That's what I'm thinking too.
We're
Good for
taking
you.
it like to a next level. And, you know, as an Aries and a Gemini, it's always chaotic. But so we're going to rent this really cute Airbnb with a pool and this weird lady named Carol who yesterday sent Renee a bunch of pictures of her brother-in-law for like no reason. So it's just
What?
gonna be a weird. It's gonna
It
be a
hasn't
weird.
even begun and it's weird.
Carol's already like causing some weird issues. But yeah, we're going to do like a drive because it's going to be 115 degrees. So we're doing like a drive through of Joshua Tree. Like my brother said, it's kind of
Whoa.
cool to drive through and look at it without like, you know, actually having to hike or anything.
I feel like something's going to happen where you're going to be pregnant and the car is going to overheat and now you're going to be in the desert with
Okay,
Renee and
stop it, because Renee already planned a whole thing. She's like, I know where the nearest emergency room is. I was like, Renee, nothing's gonna happen. Everybody's so like, I promise. She's like, well, so we're taking a thermometer, and if your temperature goes above 102, we have to go to the emergency room. And I was like, that's not gonna happen. Don't worry, I'll be fine. But
it,
we'll
it,
see.
I was going to say, I am going to not place a lot of money on you suffering, but I'm not going to not pay anything. So,
I mean, I feel like at least it's somewhere I've been before, like maybe once or twice, and it's at least we're flying into LAX. It's not like, I mean, I know you're leaving the country, but like I feel like it's at least a safer place like that I've been a lot of times. So at
we're
least
going to crisscross the airwaves.
I know. Aw. So anyway, I guess all this to say is that we had to record, I think like, and then with BCC, I had to record I think 8 episodes this
In
week, which
advance.
is
Yeah.
just a lot. And we had to record like 6 or something. So we have 2 today for y'all, and it's gonna be a good time.
That's why it is chaotic, because I feel like I haven't slept. Anytime I am awake, I am
No,
like researching and like
I'm
trying to
so
like
tired.
I just want to take a fucking nap, man. And like I wrote out like minute by minute or hour by hour like all the things I need to do and how I need to get them done. And like I'm still, I think, not sleeping for another 2 days.
Isn't
I'm
that the
so
most stressful thing when
tired.
you're like, I need to wake up at 8:30 to go to the post office and then go straight to my
Because
appointment?
you have no other option. Like
There's
that's
no
all
other
you've
time.
got.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But it's gonna be worth it when we're on the beach.
it will be worth it when I'm carrying drunk Deirdre home. That's
Yes.
that's all I want. Deirdre, are you listening? I need you to get fucking annihilated.
I'm so excited for the FaceTime / just text messages updates.
Well, also the last time I think we all went was, so my mom always used to, because you're allowed to drink at 18 there. And so when we
Oh.
used to go in college, we would drink even though we weren't 21. And then, or, you know, my friends. And even, oh, speaking of which,
Is Deirdre
the
calling you right now?
that was my mother calling.
Oh.
Now she's gonna call me 3 more times and be like, "Why are you ignoring me?" I'm be like, "Yo, I'm so busy
Excuse
today."
me, my mother just texted me, hello. What's going
Ew! Are
on?
they
Why are they
together?
doing this? Uh-oh. They're
But no,
probably like at the beach.
in high school, a lot of times we had to like sneak alcohol away from our parents because we weren't even 18 yet when we would
Oh
go.
my God.
So this is gonna be fun to see like my friend and my mom like finally allowed to like both solidly legally
Openly
just get drunk together
booze it up.
on the beach. So yeah. Anyway, do you have any other reasons why you drink today, or are you just sleepy like me?
Listen, I'm just like sleepy, but like excited to I don't know, get this party started.
I'm in a good headspace, but I'm in a very
Me
bad body
too.
space. You know what
Which
I
maybe
mean? Like,
I think that might be a good combo because I feel like if we were in a bad headspace, like that's when we get cranky, and I feel like that
mhm.
doesn't bode well. But I feel like if we're in a good headspace and physically we're a little bit off,
Yep.
that sometimes turns into some fun times. So
Usually when we're off, we're actually on, you know.
that's exactly right. Whatever that means is
You
exactly
get it. You
correct.
get it.
I get it.
Okay. So I do have a story for you today that is oh, it's a normal length. For a second I thought we had to rush. Okay. So this, I wanted to give you something because I know that we are doing 2 stories today and I wanted to kick it off with the right headspace. And so we are doing a UFO story today.
Yes. 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 I'm very excited.
Okay.
Let's do
It is in Melbourne, which I know is not the appropriate way to say it, but I also am trying to actively not say it in the Australian accent that I am so bad at. I
Melbourne.
really, there it is. Okay. I needed to hear it. It was like a thing.
What?
Yeah. I like wanted to say it in the Australian accent, but then I was trying to like not be like a classic, like I gotta
Well,
always
I
say
think you
things
just
in
have to say
Australian accents.
Melbourne. Like, just say it. Just do it.
Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Melbourne. Melbourne.
Just don't
Okay.
think about it as an Australian accent. Just say Melbourne. Melbourne.
Anyway, It's also in a town called Westall, and
Say it.
Westall is apparently the nickname for an area called Clayton South. So that's like the more specific area that we're talking about. But so it's called Clayton South, but it's just known, I think, as Westall. And the main source that I used for this was a documentary called Westall 66, A Suburban UFO Mystery.
Mm.
And so there was in the documentary there was an interview by a UFO researcher where I think the footage like got hidden away or like went missing or they just couldn't find it, or I don't even think they knew it existed. And in the documentary they uncovered audio from Dr. James McDonald, who we'll talk about a little bit, and then a high school teacher who was a witness to this UFO named Mr. Greenwood.
Okay.
So the thing that makes that footage special when I talk about it is that a lot of the event was mainly children witnesses. And so,
Fun.
and this was also in the 60s. And so I guess to have like more quote legitimate testimonies, they only really had children's accounts that were it's so hard to prep, but basically they took a lot of the government got involved and kept everyone very quiet. So there's not a lot on record of what happened, but the only witness testimonies they have are from children. One, because there were more of them and they like were convinced they saw it, and were and there was only like a handful of teachers that saw it, but also because a lot of the teachers have passed away. So now there's no way to get those
Oh,
testimonies. So the fact that they
got it.
found an old recording is like really
Got
awesome.
it.
So it's the year is 1966, Westall High School, and it's 11 a.m. and the students are hanging out outside. And then I guess some of them are hanging outside because they're coming back from like a gym class or recess or something.
Recess.
And they run inside. Especially there's one kid that people remember. He sprinted inside and he was screaming his head off about flying saucers outside.
Oh.
And Mr. Greenwood, who they end up interviewing later, he was one of the classrooms that this kid ran into. And the kid was screaming about flying saucers. It was complete frenzy. Apparently everyone thought it was the end of the world. Keep in mind, this was also like the 60s where like the whole thing, like UFOs were huge in pop culture. And
Right.
so kids were freaking out. Like in the documentary, it actually like I was thinking about it in like kind of a funny, lighthearted way of like, I don't know. I just thought about it
End
and
of
like,
days.
yeah. But actually then I watched the documentary and I went, oh, like the kids were panic stricken. Like
Sure.
people were jumping over fences, people were
Oh
climbing
no.
up in the trees, people were looking for places to hide. Like people were like crying and screaming, thinking like they were gonna die. And so it's just like complete chaos.
Oh my
And
God.
the science teacher, Mr. Greenwood, he goes outside to see what everyone else saw. And sure enough, there is a UFO floating by a power line coming towards the school.
Oh, scary.
And Mr. Greenwood, he ended up describing the UFO as round, silver, car sized, and it had a metal rod sticking up.
Okay.
And he also said eventually 5 different planes, like actual planes, all showed up, trying to surround it while the kids were panicking.
Oh my God.
Um, and interestingly, the Westall UFO incident was mostly experienced by students, but that makes sense because we were out of school. But up to 300 to 350 people saw this.
Wow.
So that makes it, I think, the country's most. I wrote somewhere farther down, so I'll say it again later. But it's like the biggest, the most witnessed
That's
UFO
amazing.
incident. So evidence and corroborative documents have been lost or kept quiet, but witnesses that are still alive swear it happened. In the documentary, there was one student named Jeff who says that skeptics use this a lot as like a reason why UFOs don't exist because there's such little information, but really it was like because things were getting hidden or nobody trusted children's testimonies. Everyone just kind of gaslit them and
Mhm.
thought that like, oh no, you just saw a plane. But Jeff is like, no, this fucking happened. The school captain, which I didn't know that was a thing.
I love
I guess
that.
it means like the president, like class president or something.
Sure.
Graham Simmons, he also swears it happened. He says, what I saw was something I've never seen before. Everyone started moving like a whole lot of zebras being terrified of crocodiles.
Oh,
And
sure.
Barb, I'm sure
You know.
if I saw a crocodile, I don't know if you would call me a zebra. You would just call me like a floundering human who
I would
was
call you
terrified.
M. Yeah, I
You would call
know.
me a puff of dust because I wouldn't be there. And Graham says, and Barbara Robbins, who was the chemistry teacher, just grabbed her camera and started clicking. So there were pictures taken of this UFO.
Okay.
Smart, Barbara, by the way,
Very.
to be like,
You know what?
Babs.
Overthrow Graham and Babs for president.
Babs for
Babs for
president.
captain. I'm gonna vote Babs.
Justice for Barb, right?
Yes, that's right.
And Graham also said that the UFO was about 50 meters in the air. It was hovering with lights surrounding it. And there was another student named Terry in the documentary who also said one of the kids looked in the sky and said, it's flying saucers. And I remember we all looked up. It was round, a silver disc, which seemed very low over the school. And I remember just kids screaming and running inside. One article says that some kids who saw it actually, quote, collapsed and became ill with fright. So some people were just getting literally sick.
That was me, just panic attack on the ground.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if someone just like ran to a trash can and started vomiting, like out of just complete nerves.
I would probably have a full-on panic attack.
Yeah, and as you should, by the way. So the UFO moved across the school, and the way that it was described by all the kids who are still around and were interviewed to see it, they said it kind of hovered by, and then there was this gathering of trees, and it dropped below the trees, so you couldn't see anything.
And then it's like, wait, let's hide real quick. Everyone's puking.
Like it was like, oh, I made them nervous. Let's play the long game here.
Sorry, we weren't trying to overwhelm you. Jeez.
And so it went down behind the trees, allegedly landed in a field, and then it came back from up the trees and then shot away.
Okay.
Some say that there were actually like 3 UFOs. One person said there were 2 UFOs. There was at least one that we can all agree on. There was at least one.
There was one there. Got it.
And it was then allegedly chased by like 5, they think, military planes.
Military. Got it.
But only some witnesses say that they saw this. Other people were like, I never saw the planes.
Okay.
So in James McDonald's interviews, here is a quote. The planes were doing everything possible to approach the object, and how they all avoided collision, no one will ever know. Every time they got too close to the object, it would slowly accelerate, then rapidly accelerate, and then move away from them and stop. So it was playing like cat and mouse.
Ooh,
with
scary.
all of these planes. And also, yeah, I can't imagine if all of these planes are trying to close in on each other, how do you not crash in the air?
Yeah, that's scary too, because they don't have this fun like back and forth situation UFOs have.
It's like when you're chasing your dog who thinks it's a game, but actually you're trying to save them. And it's like the dog thinks you're having a good time, and everyone else is like, no, we got to
think the cars are part of the chase, and it's like, no, that's going to kill you, actually.
Horrific. I am shocked that Geo has made it this far.
Don't say that. Knock on wood. Jeez.
Knock on wood. But that dog really loves to run into traffic, or at least he used to.
Cars. Oh yeah.
This game. Oh, the quote keeps going. This game reportedly went on for about 20 minutes, and by this time, Mr. Greenwood said that 350 children and staff were watching on.
Oh my God, they're just like, we have nothing else to do but.
Can you imagine a kid just getting ill, fainting, and your friends are just watching like the military not be able to catch a UFO in the sky?
Just like get made fun of practically in the air.
And then the teachers are gonna make you go back and like do homework after this. Like you've got things on your mind. I hope you get
the fucking week off, at least the day off. Hopefully the week off.
Apparently when it darted off, it flew away. Apparently it darted off into a field known as the Grange, and the Grange for the Westall students kind of knew it as where like the rebels hanged out. It was like what they would like the smokers would go and stuff. Funny enough, although all of these kids were panic stricken, a lot of them took this opportunity since it was flying away. All of these kids started chasing it to see where it went because they wanted to like follow the UFO and be able to like tell everyone what happened next.
I feel like that would be me. Like, oh my God, I'm puking. I'm gonna die. And then it goes away. And it's like, wait. I want to see what it actually,
You
where
would
it
be
goes.
you
I
would
want to
be
see what it
running
looks
and
like.
puking at the same time.
I would be having
You'd be
an
Michael Scott on
episode.
his fun run. Just,
I would also be eating Alfredo. It would be an episode indeed. Like, I don't know how else to describe it.
And so like a lot of kids were like a lot of kids reported seeing other kids like jumping fences and like trying to wriggle through fences like just
Oh,
to
I
like go
wouldn't be
follow
jumping
this thing.
anything, to be clear, but
Not even
yeah,
a lick.
no.
And so there was one student who chased it with her friends, and apparently they ran off in front of her. One of them, her name was Tanya, and when she caught up to them, Tanya had passed out. Like she was like, they don't know what happened to Tanya. Was she running too hard after eating a lot of Alfredo? Was she did she interact with the UFO? Like no one. So she caught up with her. Tanya was passed out, and she didn't know what to do. But she does know that the UFO must have landed at some point, and that she thinks because the UFO landed, Tanya and the UFO had some sort of like moment together, and Tanya passed out.
How cute.
But they think that the UFO must have landed because when she got there, there was this flattened, swirly pattern in the grass where some of the grass was no longer green; it had yellowed and browned.
A crop circle.
A crop circle. And then this student said, I think her name was Jacqueline. I forgot to write it down. I'm sorry, but let's call her Jacqueline. She says that she then saw the UFO herself, quote, turn on its side and disappear into thin air.
Turn on its side?
So like it was flat and then it went boing.
Wait, so is it still on the ground or it was up in the air now?
I think at this point she'd seen it because when she got there, the ground had this pattern in it.
Oh, so it was already back up.
Yeah.
She
thinks while it was on the ground and Tanya was on the ground, they had some sort of like maybe
that is super weird.
Something going on.
Huh.
And weirdly enough, I don't know, it's when you start hearing more about like how there was like some cover up to this, it sounds fishier. But the kids later, they were like, so what happened to Tanya? And they're like, we never saw her again.
What? Wait, what?
They were like, we remember an ambulance coming to get her, and she never came back to school, and it was the middle of the year. So she could have just been fucking traumatized with whatever happened.
Okay, yeah. That I hope that's. I mean, I don't hope that's what happened, but I hope at least
like that's the least cover-uppy version, yeah.
Yeah.
But then the other thought is maybe that like she got brought in somewhere for questioning and like couldn't return. So who knows?
Yikes.
Before it landed, and Tanya allegedly saw the UFO. There was another student named Victor who also saw it land, and he says he even touched the UFO. But he didn't pass out, so
I don't believe Victor for a second. That sounds like a very Victor kid thing to say.
Especially when another kid got dragged out by an ambulance. Like I think there was
like, well, I touched it.
Yeah,
I don't believe him for a second.
Victor says, quote, all the kids were hanging on a fence, but I could hear somebody in the background say, stay away, don't jump the fence. And so I thought, well, I'm going over to the fence. I got
okay, that part I do
Christine.
That part I can get behind.
Well, I'm going over the fence and I got up to touch it, and it was, well, you could feel heat about a meter away from it. So even if he didn't touch it itself, he got close enough to it where he could feel the
enough.
Heat. It was pretty warm or hot, and within a minute or so, both of them, because he says there were two, both of them lifted at the same time.
Wow.
It was breathtaking just watching that, and then it just gradually lifted up and went off towards the pines. It had no seams, and this is a separate quote, but he actually drew a sketch of it so he would never forget what it looked like, and all he said about it was like it looked like a UFO disc shaped thing in the sky. And Victor said it had no seams, it had no joints, it was completely smooth metal.
Oh, interesting.
Like it didn't like.
That's creepy.
I guess in my head a UFO would be like bolted together in panels, but he was like, nope, it was just smooth.
That's creepy.
And just like something you'd see in the movies. So So he's the one who says that there's two. There is someone else who says there were three of them. I don't know. We can't ask Tanya because girl's out of commission.
Oh, Tanya. So sorry.
There's also a kid, well, I guess now he's a grown-ass man, but there was a kid named Sean Matthews. And his family leased the land at the Grange where the UFO landed.
Yeah.
And so this is Sean's memory of what happened. He says, quote, I saw the thing come across the horizon and drop down behind the pine trees. I couldn't tell you what it was. It certainly wasn't a light aircraft or anything of that. I saw the thing drop down behind the pine trees and I saw it leave again. It went up and off very, very rapidly. I went over and there was a circle in the clearing. It looked like it had been cooked or boiled, but not burnt,
Ooh.
as I remember. So something had happened on the land, and which
Weird.
makes sense with what the other student said.
Yeah.
Um, a heap of kids from Westall came charging through to see what happened, and they were saying, "Look at this, look at that. We saw it as well." That sort of thing. It was a bit of a talking point for a couple days, and the way this thing moved, there is no way it could have been a weather balloon or a light aircraft. A helicopter, no way, no noise, wrong shape, and it didn't move like that. It came out of the distance, it stopped, and then just dropped. It didn't just sort of cruise and then slightly descend at an angle. It stopped, dropped, and then went straight back up.
Ugh.
So, super creepy. I also like that there's so many people at this point. It wasn't just the school, it was people nearby who were
A
like,
heap of kids.
we could hear we could see the kids running at us being like, we saw it too, we saw it too. So everyone is like, they are like, we saw this fucking thing. Like we're all having some like different experiences with it, but we're all seeing this thing. And
Wow.
every person who told the story of what they saw all say, at least by the school, that it floated through, dropped down below the trees, came back up and shot away. And so it could have either, I guess when it shot away, that's when it went to the fields, maybe landed and had the Tanya thing happen.
Did something to Tanya, who knows?
Yeah. And then it went to the Grange. One person whose family literally owns the Grange, and Tanya. Weird things happened with it landing, and then something in the grass afterwards. And then it shot off.
Wow.
So when the UFO vanished and the craziness eventually died down around town, or not, and by died around town, I mean like that day. Like it wasn't like, oh, when the rumor mills kind of slowed down after a couple of weeks. It was like that day after everyone had kind of been regathered at the school.
Uh-huh.
The headmaster demanded everybody come back inside, and
No.
but I think he was just gonna like treat the day like fucking normal, like that, like don't make any fuss about that. It was just apparently that the headmaster himself has passed now, but in the documentary they interviewed his kids, and the kids were like, that guy was like not about UFOs, spiritual stuff. He was like really like firm in his beliefs, and like that would not have flown. So like it makes sense why he was like, you didn't see that, like that you were all
He's a skeptic.
very big skeptic. Soon military and police personnel showed up at the school and started threatening everyone into silence.
That's nice.
And so despite
They're
the
like,
kids,
don't make fun of us for that game of chase we played earlier, okay?
yeah, ignore the fact that you literally saw me 5 seconds ago in the sky.
A little embarrassing.
Despite the kids in town insisting this happened, and again there was like up to 350 people who saw this fucking thing. The principal was apparently, or the headmaster was shaken, I think, by the events, or that events happened, but like refused to say that it was anything supernatural.
Trying to just be stern about like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, stand by his skepticism.
Yeah, and the kids say that he ended up holding an assembly. I don't know if this was because when the military and everyone came in, they demanded that of him, or if he did it himself. But he held an assembly that day when the UFO was gone and all the kids were like coming back. And he basically gaslit the fuck out of these kids. He was like, you saw nothing. It was a weather balloon. Never talk about it again. And then the teachers were basically told, shut up or lose your job.
I wonder what you would do though, because I bet if the military came and said like that you cannot say anything, or I mean, I feel like you'd be in a hard position.
Oh, it would make sense. I just don't know if he did the assembly before or after the military got there. Like, I don't know if this was just like his assembly where he just decided to say these things
to yell at everyone,
being instructed to. Yeah, it makes sense if it happened after the military and like higher up people got there.
And they were like, don't fucking
It sounded from what the kids were saying, and maybe their memory of like the military showing up isn't really there, but they were like, yeah, we all got back to school and he just held an assembly and told us to shut up. And so we don't know if he had been spoken
Jeez.
to before or after.
Interesting.
Um, Mr. Greenwood, who saw it himself, he even asked the PE teacher who was with the kids outside originally
Mhm.
to compare stories with him. And the PE teacher refused to speak and like was like didn't say anything. So Mr. Greenwood was like, okay, like I know you fucking saw something. Don't be shady. He later went to a couple students who he was like, I know you saw something. Like, what was that? And I guess this was before the assembly. And the students were able to detail by detail corroborate what he'd seen. But then 30 minutes later, I guess the students had all had that assembly that he was unaware of. And when he tried to talk to them about it again, they were just like, they were like, we didn't see anything.
Oh my god, how weird and creepy.
The principal also had a teacher or the headmaster. I don't know what they call them in Australia.
Well,
Headmaster?
we had both.
Oh, we only had a oh, I guess we did too, but it was like it changed. Like
I feel like the
the
principal was like the headmaster was the entire school, and the principal was like for like the middle school or like the high school.
Oh, no, I think the principal and the headmaster were the same thing at my
Hmm,
school. Anyway, the person in
whatever.
charge. They also they got a teacher to monitor the school grounds to make sure no children were like going exploring or leaving class.
That sucks to be the one teacher who has to like roam around by himself outside or themselves. Like,
After a UFO just fucking got here and he knows what
yeah.
he saw and can't
And
say
an
anything.
ambulance left with one child, and you're like,
Yeah.
I guess I just keep an eye out for something. I don't
Just
know.
one teacher, not even the buddy system.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, so I guess this was in theory so kids wouldn't go exploring when they should be in class, but also I think it was because certain kids were being pulled out and questioned and they wanted to make sure nobody was seeing anything. So
ooh.
that teacher, when he was walking the school grounds, he saw through a window that there was the headmaster Babs, who took the pictures with her camera,
Yes, Babs.
and then someone in a police like uniform, and they all seemed to be kind of arguing. And the guy in the uniform, who he had never seen before, was demanding that Barbara not only hand over her film but the entire camera.
Damn, if only if it were nowadays, you could post that on Snapchat before
Oh my god, it would have been
anybody
on
got to you.
a live stream. Would
That's
have been
true. It
like,
wouldn't have even, yeah, it would have been screenshotted by
before
everybody already.
anyone even asks, I'm making sure people see this.
Yeah.
Um, and so the students also reported seeing the headmaster or being sent to the headmaster's office. They reported being sent to the headmaster's office and meeting two well-dressed men who questioned them.
Man in Black. Oh my God. So
Mhm.
scary.
And in hindsight, one student believes that they were from the government, and they said, "quote Oh, and we suppose you think you saw a flying saucer." And the student was like, I didn't say that. I just said I saw an object. And then they were like, and we suppose you saw little green men. Like they were just being so fucking nasty.
Whoa.
It's like,
Calm
yo,
down.
first of all, it's a kid who just got traumatized. I know we're in the 60s and you don't think like kids have like functional brains or something, but like this child is going through it and you're just like,
Oh God.
it's all like super gaslighty, super just rude in general, like not letting them even say what they saw. Like if you're going to question them and I don't understand that concept because, like, if you want to interrogate them to get answers to help you, why would you make them feel bad and shame them into not giving you
They're probably
answers?
just trying to, they're probably not getting answered. They're probably just trying to shut them up by making them feel stupid and like
Probably.
be like, you saw nothing.
Yeah. The same students said I think it was just their job to squash any idea at all
Right. Right.
that we saw something. So they were just trying to make us feel
Talk
stupid.
about gaslighting, like you
I
said. I
know.
mean,
Yeah.
so you're saying this? I'm literally not,
Oh,
but
let me
okay.
guess. You're so wild. You also think you saw green little men. It's like, I guess not. Damn. Also,
Not
I didn't
anymore.
to begin with, but
Also, like, is Tanya okay? Like,
yeah,
what's
also,
happening?
where's T? Where is
Where's
she?
Babs and where's Tanya?
So journalists also showed up at the school
Of
and
course.
because they were like, we got to get the scoop, but cops immediately told them they had to leave the property. And some of the journalists were able to still get a hold of kids before they got kicked off the property, or maybe they were like waiting after people got out of school if they could grab a kid. and
Grab a kid. Okay,
grab a
well,
kid,
that's
just
some interesting verbiage you
just
use there, but yes.
just scoop them into the car. And the kids were told not to talk to anybody, but one girl, she did speak to reporters, and every time it aired on TV or like it got reported back in public, she would get detention. And she was like, but it was worth it.
Oh, she got detention. I thought you said attention. I was like, cool.
Well, she got attention and
Detention.
detention. Which,
I
like,
guess
by
if
the
it was
way,
worth it.
also if it's only detention, like, you know, like I feel like she should have, if like they were trying to be as scary about it as possible, they would have like expelled her or something.
But also, like, it's not her fault. Like, if they keep replaying the clip, it's not like
That's true.
he has any control over it. I don't know why they're giving her like give detention to the journalists or whatever. I don't like that's not going to help to put her
You
in
would think
detention.
the government would like have then gone to the journalists and been like,
To
you
pull
must
that.
get rid of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, fun fact, when the journalists were doing research for the Amazon documentary specifically, they actually went to Channel 9 to find that footage that the kids spoke on. But the Amazon documentary researcher, I think his name was Shane Ryan, and he went to Channel 9 and he went into the room where it was like all the film reels
Yeah.
of footage, and he found the can or the tin with that date on it and like that story on it, but the can when he opened it was empty.
So they did pull it
So
eventually.
something
Wow.
happened. Um
Spooky.
yeah. So as for hard copy sources, there's one article called it's called Flying Saucer Mystery School Silent, and it was in the Dandenong Journal. But that was the only article that he could find, and not much else exists, which feels a lot like this was covered up, because why weren't people talking about 350 children seeing a UFO flying
Yeah,
by?
that seems like a good news story to me.
Feels like at least if you've got nothing else to write about, you should like throw that as like a side article, like a little column.
Yeah.
But there was people did hear about it. In fact, there was the Victorian Flying Saucer Research Society, and they had even taken ads out in the paper for witnesses to come forward because they wanted to write about it or at least research it, and nobody got back to them.
Wow. So these people were put in their like place by
They were
the powers that be.
they were scared. Yeah.
Jeez.
And many today in the area still dismiss it as like mass hysteria, but anyone who was a student there who saw this, they stand by their claims. So like, that was a fucking UFO. Like, don't let people
I
trick
feel
you.
like I get it if like 5 kids were like, we saw it. And it's like, okay, maybe they just took after each other, but like 350 kids.
Hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And so where are we? Okay, so there was also one guy who came forward for the Amazon doc named Paul Smith, and he worked near the school at the time, and he says he also saw the UFO because he was on the property or he was nearby it. He says, quote, I looked up and I was facing the object in the sky, and I just thought, oh, somebody's got some way of projecting a film or something into the sky, because I didn't believe that this was really happening. But my boss
Whoa.
turned around and saw it, and we stood there looking at it for several minutes. A few moments later, a bunch of children came over from the high school, and they noticed us, and they took some time to decide whether to come onto the property or not. And then they headed to the market. Then army trucks turned up, and about 20 guys in khaki uniform or in camo trucks got out. And it was only 20 minutes after the object had appeared in the trees, which was a very quick amount of time. So
Wow.
he saw it with his buddy, thought it was fake, and then all these kids came over, started talking about it with him. And then not even 20 minutes after he saw it, the military was on site in like 20 trucks. Like there was like,
Yeah.
and so in the I got chills because there's in the
I'm
documentary
freaking out.
there was also Lieutenant Colonel Smith, who says that he was like, I guess like the military, the voice of the
Head
military,
honcho.
the guy, someone who at least knew what he was talking about to give us some intel. And Lieutenant Colonel Smith says that the main units around this town at that time were logistics and reserves, but they wouldn't have been able to respond that quickly. So
Oh.
so the first responders, if like if there really were this many people and that many trucks in those uniforms with those types of trucks that were able to respond that quickly, despite them not really supposed to
Yeah.
have been in the area, those people were most likely, quote, quasi civilians who were working in the Department of Defense, or the Department of Supply, or the Department of Research and Development.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
He says camo uniforms at that time would have actually been the US Air Force and not Australian government.
Ooh, okay, well, and little chills. And then you think about it because they already had all the airplanes in the sky, so it's like they knew about this as it was happening before
Mm-hmm.
anybody even reported it. So like
Yep.
they would have been there.
Yep.
Ooh.
So at the time, the uniforms sound more like US Air Force, which makes sense because there was US military in Australia at the time. So they could have been the first ones on the scene.
Love that the US is like, hold on, we're
Yeah,
getting involved
we
here.
got it. Okay.
Hello.
Apparently so one of the reasons people were especially so panicky about UFOs was because the Cold War was in full swing. Space race
Right.
was a huge influence in pop culture.
The sky was a scary place at
The
that
world
time.
was primed to like have a UFO attack at some time,
Or
at
to
some
like
point.
look up and see something dangerous coming at you, whether it be a bomb or a UFO.
Yeah, so a lot of skeptics have said like, oh, it's mass hysteria during the space race era, and it was a bunch of kids. Like you see something in the sky you can't recognize, and you don't know like certain military aircraft, and like, of course you're gonna think it's a UFO. It's not a big deal. But okay, but also all these fucking military people are involved. You're literally being told not to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like Channel 9 footage is completely missing. A lieutenant colonel is like, this does not make sense unless they're from the Department of Defense, which is horrific.
Which makes it worse. Yeah.
Which makes it worse. And a lot of people do argue also on this side that that the school was right next to an airport. So people and the kids were used to
They're
seeing
not
aircrafts
stupid.
all the time.
Yeah.
So they were like, this is not what we're used to seeing. This is different.
It's not some like country place that never sees an airplane out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Exactly. Also interesting, days before this incident, the same type of UFO was reportedly seen in the area 2 different times.
Oh.
So that wasn't like its first day in Westall. It was like, yeah, it's just zooming around.
Oh my God.
And each of these cases were known about, but none of them were ever officially documented. So like there are like in both of those other circumstances where someone saw the UFO, it was reported about, but it was removed from public record.
Whoa, spooky.
So in the 1960s, so there's the quote summary of unidentified aerial sightings reported to Department of Air, which is basically like every decade they put out a new volume, and it's just the entire like encyclopedia of every report that has ever come through about a UFO sighting. And none of those sightings, although all were reported, never made it into that book. So they were like wiped clean from ever being. Nope.
See, there's something wrong with that.
Even though they were investigated, yeah. So there's no documentation of any of them anywhere.
Fishy.
So there's one UFO researcher named Bill Chalker, and he has been also researching the Westall UFO incident. And this is a quote from him from the documentary. Given that there seemed to be literally at least hundreds of people involved with this, it had media attention at the time. It appeared to have evidence that there was a military investigation at the time. There was no Westall file. And then another UFO researcher named Keith Basterfield, he says in the documentary, quote, "We were looking through hundreds and hundreds of file titles, maybe even thousands in the end. Along the way, we were always looking for files on the Westall incident from 1966. We started off with the Air Force, but within and also within the Department of Defense, we checked out files belonging to the Air Board. We checked out unit files from Air Force bases, from former Department of Civil Radiation, from the Air Safety Bureau, the CSIRO, the intelligence files, the AGO, but the net result was we found nothing in this mammoth volume of government documentation, which would be even begin to hint that there was something about Westall in government files."
That is so weird.
So that was
makes no sense.
Air Force, Department of Defense, Air Board, Air Force bases, former Department of Civil Radiation, Air Safety Bureau. That's 10 different massive volumes they were looking at for an inkling.
Something's up.
So one witness named Kevin, who also saw the UFO back in the day when it was flying through, he remembers it going out. He remembered seeing it go out to the fields, and he tried to go see it the next day after everything had happened, because I think he was like, "Yo, I am being told left and right that I didn't see this thing. I want to go
Yeah.
to the field and see what the fuck happened. Like, did I really see this?" When he got to the Grange the next day, so like within 24 hours of the UFO incident, uh, he, this is a quote from him. When we came through the area, the Air Force and the Army stopped us from going through. They said,
Hmm.
"Don't come near this area." There were vehicles, and they had some sort of instrument, which at the time I thought looked like gardening cans. And he was just turned away. He was like, "Do not come to this area."
See, yeah, and they're trying to pretend like, oh, nothing happened. I mean, not very good at it.
A week later, he went back again thinking that the military would be gone. And when he went to the spot that they were blocking off because he wanted to see the landing patterns, all of the earth had been completely burned away. Like all evidence was
So
completely
they just
destroyed.
fucking, oh my God.
Hmm. So the same lieutenant colonel earlier who was able to give us some intel,
Smith.
he, yes, Lieutenant Colonel Smith, he was asked, would a military research and development establishment destroy evidence like that? And he said very plainly, of course they would. So he's like,
At least he's
yeah,
honest.
he's like, they were there destroying evidence of something they didn't want people to
Uh-huh.
know.
He's nothing if not honest, that Colonel Smith.
He's on it. He seemed like he was like team aliens.
Yeah.
Um, in the interview with this researcher, Dr. McDonald, who interviewed Mr. Greenwood, that file that they ended up finding
Mhm.
later, Mr. Greenwood had also been spoken to by a well-dressed man.
Okay.
Apparently, this is a quote, that two officers came to his home and threatened him under the Official Secrets Act.
It's always
They,
the two officers. It's the men in black, dressed well from the government, sketchy AF. No,
you know
thank
what?
you.
They said that they couldn't have seen a flying saucer over Westall because there was no such thing as flying saucers. So just
Okay.
gaslighting the shit out of
Then
him
why are
too.
you at my house, weirdo?
Right, exactly.
Like, what are you doing?
They threatened to tell people that Mr. Greenwood was an alcoholic, even though he wasn't.
What
And
a rude thing to
as a
do.
first year teacher with a career ahead of him, he feared his career would be
Yeah,
jeopardized by
of
speaking out.
course.
So he didn't. So that's why
That's so
he,
fucked up.
I mean, like, so it doesn't exist and I have nothing to worry about, but also you're on my front porch, you're from the government, and you're threatening my career.
You're calling me a booze hound for no reason.
Yeah. So Mr. Greenwood also said, quote, "I knew what I saw. It wasn't an aircraft by any stretch of the imagination, and it certainly was not a weather balloon like they were saying it was."
My God.
James McDonald, who interviewed him, said that, or he also interviewed a bunch of other people, and they had all said similar things, that basically the men in black had come to see them and told them to stay quiet. Um, and they said, quote, "You saw something experimental and there's nothing to worry about. Do not talk about it anymore."
What the fuck? Dude, I can't wait for the day you cover the Men in Black. That is such a
I
scary
know.
topic to
It's
me.
I'm
Like it
so
really
overwhelmed.
freaks me out. I feel like we're gonna get visited if we talk about it.
Of course.
Ooh, ooh.
Westall is still one of the biggest unexplained UFO cases in Australia, and it's Australia's largest mass UFO sighting to date. That's what it is. And
Jeez.
the UFO had, quote, "a large number of credible witnesses. It was viewed in daylight and attracted a forceful response from the police and the RAAF. Some of the explanations given for the UFO were that it was an experimental aircraft, mass hysteria, shoddy memory, the space race, priming everybody to think they saw a UFO. It was a classified top secret aircraft, and the most used theory is that it was weather balloons."
And also everyone's an alcoholic, probably.
And also everyone's an alcoholic,
Including
and
Tanya, who's in the ambulance.
including the children. Um, but so most people say it was a weather balloon, but a weather balloon does not move that quickly, and the government wouldn't care about a weather balloon. So
They
who
wouldn't
thought?
be coming over being like, you didn't see anything. Like that doesn't track.
I also like I wish that someone was brave enough to go up to the men in black when they were there to be like, then why are you here? Just
Yeah,
like how
like
you asked.
why?
But I think that's when you get killed.
That's probably a dangerous move. Yeah,
I'd be like,
I would
you got
agree.
it, Sonny.
Yep, I am a drunk all the time. It's all
I
good
was
here.
being just silly. I was just not even here.
Silly old
Um
me.
so also I said earlier the school was near an airport, so people were familiar with common aircrafts flying by. But this one that everyone saw, quote, everyone said straight away that this was not a plane. Like, so right away, that's 350 people saying, okay, I literally am next to an airport all the time. I know what's going on.
Wow.
In 2006, there was a 40th anniversary held for the witnesses. They had a reunion at the Westall Tennis Club Hall. And in 2011, which was 45 years later, um, the Amazon documentary and investigator Shane Ryan, they interviewed 30 to 100 of the 300 alleged witnesses. I say 30 to 100 because different websites gave me different answers.
Oh my God.
It feels like it was closer to probably 30.
Sorry, my butler's here with my iced tea. Thank you, Blaze.
Oh,
Oh, he opened it for me.
oh,
Thank you.
that's so sweet.
It's the
It's
little
the
things
little things.
nowadays.
So yeah, so he interviewed probably close to like 30, 50 people that said they were witnesses to the incident. And Shane Ryan, the investigator, he says it was clear that, quote, people saw something very strange and unusual, and somebody in the government didn't really want the story to get out. And he said, quote, I'm so frustrated that after all these years, I can't get an official answer about why the powers that be were there that day and why they didn't want the students to talk about what they saw.
Yep, that adds so much creepiness to it.
He said, quote, with its undercurrent of Cold War paranoia, secret US air bases, and a strong military relationship with Australia and America, this raises questions about the acceptability of cover-ups delivered by the government in the interests of national security. And in fact, this leads us to our most likely explanation for what the UFO was if it was not a UFO, although I'm team UFO, obviously.
For sure.
So I talked about Keith Basterfield earlier. He's one of the UFO researchers who went through all those fucking files. So in 2014, he thinks that if anything, the UFO could have been a secret radiation testing blimp for the Highball program. Highball, Hibble?
I don't know what that is.
So it's a program in the 60s where, quote, it was a quote, US Australian initiative to monitor atmospheric radiation levels using large silver balloons equipped with sensors, which this was confirmed that these did exist. And so I guess it was also during like Cold War, nuclear testing paranoia.
Sure.
We had some sort of program where we were testing radiation in the air.
I mean, that would explain why the US Air Force was involved too.
Right, because maybe National Archives say that one of those balloons, which I think was called Flight 292, it may have blown off of its course in the middle of it trying to test radiation in the air, and it blew off course towards Westall.
Recess.
Towards recess. And one of the reasons why the military would have been so worried about that is because some of the files suggest that there was government concern about how dangerous these balloons were if they got near a populated area, since they were literally testing radiation
filled with children.
And literally it's going towards a school of like 400 kids.
Oh my God.
So if the balloon did go off course towards a city, it makes sense that the military would be chasing after it and demanding silence because they didn't want the government they didn't want people knowing probably that they were
don't tell on us.
Don't tell us that we fucked up, and also don't tell that we're testing radiation anyway. They don't, because I think they were already the world was already so scared about like nuclear bombs at any moment. So
yeah,
they were probably trying to keep it hush hush, and then a bunch of kids were gonna like describe a big bomb testing balloon
thing they saw. Yeah.
So Keith Basterfield, he found records of several highball flights. But interestingly enough, the documentation for Flight 292, the launch paperwork for that cannot be found. So I don't know if they just completely wrote that off. I don't know if it's because it has to do with an alien story. I don't know if it's because they didn't want their own bosses finding out that something went off course. Like maybe they're just covering themselves up, not like a whole alien secret.
Yeah.
But anyway, They never found out what it is. The best guess is that it was just a secret radiation testing blimp.
I think that's fascinating too, though. I mean, I love when it's because I feel like government secrets and cover-ups are almost sometimes just as creepy as
Yeah,
alien stories. Like, ooh,
gave you a little bit of both. But
yeah,
today, at the site of the encounter, which, like, let's be clear though, like there was still something that like burnt into the ground. They destroyed the
fair.
evidence.
Well,
Like
if it's covered in radiation,
the
maybe.
the footage went missing. So like, who knows what it could have been? Oh,
Yeah,
you're right. If it had radiation on it, maybe.
I don't know.
But where it is said to have landed today, on the Grange Reserve, there is now a memorial UFO park with UFO themed play equipment to honor the incident.
Yes,
So
I love that they embraced it for recess time. Like, no,
again, it's a full
on the
circle,
UFOs.
complete full circle. So that is the story of the Westall UFO incident.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh, that's so creepy. And I love that it ended with like, oh, they just saw, like, not with like, oh, they just saw something, but like they might have seen a secret government project that the Men in Black did try to cover up. Like, it's still
Yeah.
creepy. I mean, even if that is what happened.
Mm.
Oh, spooky stuff. I just did a guest spot on Lady to Lady podcast
Yeah.
on the Exactly Right Network, and they do like sleepover games, and one of them was who's your favorite alien? And I was like so taken aback. I didn't know what to say.
I like how of all people, like not only were you taken aback, but also like that was your moment. And
And
like
I
you,
felt so stupid. I was like, I don't even know. I'm so overwhelmed by this question.
who did you say?
I literally was like, can somebody just list aliens? And then like we couldn't really do it. Like, I don't know.
I like
It's
how
hard
they were going to give you a question they were not prepared to answer.
Yeah. I was like, I mean, the only one I can think of is ET, and that's such a boring answer. So I was like,
I think like if I had to pick something right away, I would pick like, if I were going the classic route, I'd say Marvin the Martian. If I were going the
yeah,
creative route, I'd say Flubber. Wait, Flubber was not an alien. He was a creation in the
he was
lab.
an invention.
I guess I'd
Um,
say Marvin the Martian.
I said the only ones I can think of are Marvin the Martian and ET. And then I mean, see, like the real answer I would have given was like the Pleiadians, but I was like, I don't need to go there. I don't need to say, oh, by the
The
way, I'm pretty
lizard
sure.
people.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure nobody needs to know how like an Akashic record reader told me that my ancestors were from an alien race. Like they don't need that right
You
now.
should.
It's too
It would have
much.
been funny though if like they thought they were really throwing a curveball at you, and you just like
I
said
was
something
like,
like that, and then
funny
also
you
like
ask.
ripped your human face off to show your reptilian
It's
body.
actually me. I'm a
My favorite
Pleiadian.
alien is myself. Welcome to
I
Gemini season.
Oh, welcome. It's me. Anyway, yeah, I just thought that was so funny. I was like, because I was saying how much I love UFO stories, so it's great timing.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Can
Very
I know
wonderful.
we're like not stopping, but can I run and grab my charger real quick? I totally
Please
forgot.
go for it. I'm gonna just
Otherwise, my computer's gonna go goodbye halfway through your story.
I'm gonna just sit here and read my email.
Okay, it's gonna take 2 seconds.
Take your time.
Christine, I forgot to tell you when where did we go? Oh, one of the things I did for my birthday. Oh, let me plug this in. Sorry. Okay. One of the things we did for my birthday was Allison and I went to the outlet mall,
Mm-hmm.
and at the outlet mall was Five Below. Have you ever
Mm-hmm.
been to a Five Below?
Yes, we've talked about this every time we go on tour.
I fucking love Five Below.
I
Well,
know.
I forgot about their 10 pieces of candy for $1 situation.
Yes.
Do you know what was one of the options for the vat of candy? You could get 10 pieces for $1. Do you know what one of them was?
You did mention Charleston Chews, I think, but I
Yes.
don't. Yes, you texted me about it that night.
I love a good Charleston
Me
chew.
too. That's funny. It's Renee's and my favorite candy. We're stocking up for our baby moon.
Oh my God, I love Charleston chews. My dad used to eat them all the time, and I used to think like, wow, what an old man candy.
It
And then,
is.
and have you had them frozen?
Yes, we would always freeze them. So good.
God, it's
Okay,
so
that's so
fucking good.
funny. I love Charleston Chews and like nobody ever gets it. So
I don't know why they like Why are those not bigger? Or like,
Hi, June.
when did
June's
someone
here.
oh when did someone decide that, like, you
Hey,
know
boy.
what, we don't need to sell that everywhere anymore?
I
Like,
don't
instead we need
know.
like a Mars bar.
Well, I feel like they're not Moon June. That's not food. That's a fake plant. I feel like they're not popular because they're kind of weird texture. Like they're not the classic, like just a sugar bar. I don't know.
It's a chocolate covered marshmallow. How can you not want that?
I know they're delicious. Every time Renee and I would have like a bad day at school or like have like I don't know relationship troubles, we would always sit in a parking lot and like eat Charleston chews.
Where would you get Charleston shoes though? Because I feel like today
CVS.
I don't think they have them anymore at CVS, do they?
Oh, we used to get them at CVS. I don't know. Hi, Juniper.
Interesting. I feel like
such a cuddle bug.
it's my time to shine.
He really wants to eat this fake plant, actually.
No, I used to think they were more accessible, but now I'm pretty sure like that's an Amazon purchase.
Try to get the camera here because he has things to say. Ow. Okay.
He was just saying, I fucking hate Charleston shoes. Can we get
And
back to our
he
regular
probably
programming?
did. He also kicked me in the boob. Ouch. Okay. Well, this was our classic candy break. Welcome back, everybody. We have now for you a crime story.
We do? Oh
we
my
do.
God. We are
Shocking.
changing things up, Christine.
Listen, I like to
It's
keep
crazy.
it spicy for you, so you're welcome.
Thank you. I like the spice.
June is over there biting into a piece of tape, so
everyone's having a good time.
He's causing some problems. All right. This is the story. It's a bummer. I have a bummer for you today, but Christine, it was going to be the second story.
Can I win? When can I win?
And you should know that by now. It was going to be the second story that because we're recording 2 episodes, and then I switched them because I was like, I'd rather end on they're both bummers, obviously, but I feel like this one's just kind of ends on more of a bummer, so we're gonna go with this one first.
More worse.
I know it's hard to say which one's worse, but we're gonna start with this one, and this is the story of Ronnie Long. Okay, and it takes place back in the 70s, so we're doing an old-timey episode today, I guess. All right. So we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, April 25th, 1976. A call comes into the police at 9:30 p.m. On the other end of the line is white 50-year-old widow Sarah Bost, and she's reporting a traumatizing forced entry into her home. Dun, dun, dun.
I feel like it only gets more terrible now after this because
bad.
That alone was the only gasp I could muster.
The end.
I used it up way too early.
Oh, I wish it ended with, and it turns out it was just a surprise party, and Sarah had a great time.
And Sarah said, never mind.
And she was no longer a widow because her partner came back from the dead. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
But no, it's just bummer central. So
great.
Juniper, stop it.
What year is this again? Sorry.
76.
Okay.
Junie, stop. That's not food. Okay, so she described how a man entered the home, put a knife to her throat, and demanded money from her. Ugh. When she told him she didn't have any money, the man became angry, cursed her, threw her to the ground, ripped her clothes off, beat her, and raped her.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
10 minutes into the attack, Bost got a phone call, which alarmed the intruder, and he fled, leaving Bost unclothed and terrified. She didn't think it was safe to stay in the house, so she darted to a neighbor's house, and the neighbor called 911 for her. She explains then and there to her neighbor that, quote, an African-American man had just raped me. As the police arrive, she's quickly rushed off to the Cabarrus Memorial Hospital, and the Concord Police Department gets involved, and the investigation begins as to who this intruder/rapist was. So they start by searching her house as well as interviewing her at the hospital. And she gives a specific and detailed description of her attacker, outlining his ethnicity, saying the man was, quote, yellow or a really light-skinned black male, giving his height, his facial hair, and what he was wearing. The report records her having said that the man's height was 5'5", 5'5". Sorry, this is so confusing. 5'5", 5 foot. Jesus,
5'5"?
5'5" to 5'9". Sorry, I don't know why that was so hard for me to say.
So, in between 5 and 6 feet. Let's just sleep it at
in
that.
between 5'5", 5'9".
Okay. Wow.
Slender build, slim hips. Subject was plain spoken, used correct English, and it, which, like, yikes.
Oh my
And
God. Also, like, what is this being called yellow?
yeah, that's not good either. I
This,
know.
this
At
is all
first,
not
I was
doing
like,
right.
this was in the police report, and then I was like, I mean, 76. Not that that's any better, but like, it's, I guess, less
Makes more
jarring
sense than today,
than today. Yeah.
that it was said. Yeah.
Yeah. So, plain spoken, no, correct English, yikes, and at times spoke very softly. No speech defect, accent, or noticeable brogue evident. Subject was wearing a dark waist-length leather jacket, blue jeans with a dark toboggan pulled over his head, could possibly have been wearing gloves. And that
Okay.
was the description. So while Boss was still at the hospital, 2 police officers presented her with a series of 13 photographs of 13 black men aged between 20 and 30. Boss didn't recognize any of them to be her attacker. Meanwhile, they're investigating her house, like just searching the crime scene, and 2 pieces of evidence have been discovered. They find
Hmm.
burned out matches on the
Oh.
bedroom floor near a window ledge and a shoe
Oh.
print found on the banister, which they are able to lift an impression of. Always a shoe print.
Really interesting. Also, so do the matches imply that this person was waiting for her to get home?
Yes, or at least was smoking, like there. Yeah.
Okay.
So meanwhile, and that ends up coming back later. Yeah.
Okay.
So several weeks later, Boss is back at her house and is contacted by officers inviting her to attend district court. They have a picture of the man that they think might be her attacker, but they don't want to show her the picture. They decide instead to invite her to the courthouse and tell her somebody who's coming into the courthouse today for a different court case may be your attacker. If you see someone who's familiar, let us know.
Oh,
Which is
I
fascinating and weird
am
approach.
I was gonna say, am I allowed to be really skeeved out by that?
I
Like
mean, I
it's
think
like
you're allowed to be whatever you want. I'm not going to
feel
stop any emotions here.
it feels I feel it feels icky, but also innovative. Like it's like I
It's weird, right? Like it feels really like not cool, but also it's like I guess showing a photo and being like, "Is this the guy?" is also not really effective.
yeah,
So
it feels like she was like she didn't know she was part of like a new Mindhunter test of
yes,
like, let's see
exactly.
how psychologically you actually find the person
It's
in the
like being
wild.
primed for this. I mean, it feels like a tactic in like SVU where they walk somebody through the
Uh-huh.
police station knowing that the other person is there to see their reaction, or it
Yep.
seems very like test, yeah, like a test. So they say he might be there. If he is, let us know. Obviously, she's nervous because she doesn't know if her attacker is going to be there. So she hesitantly agrees to go, but only if she's allowed to wear a disguise. So on May 10th, 1976, Boss, wearing a red wig and sunglasses, heads to the courthouse with police.
Okay.
There's a man.
Nice disguise, by the way.
Yeah, red wig. I'm
Yeah,
into it. Why
that's
not?
fun. Yeah.
A man named Ronnie Long, who's a 20-year-old cement mason, is called to the stand about an hour into Bost arriving. He's wearing a flowered leisure shirt, very 70s in my mind, a
Yeah.
medium length brown leather jacket, and is being seen for a case of trespassing. So he'd actually been arrested on April 29th in relation to him trespassing in the public park near his home, which turned out to be a mile away from Bost's home. So when they arrested him and saw his leather jacket, they were basically like, maybe this is the guy because it's the same area, same night. We're bringing him in for an arrest. And
Right.
when they were taking pictures and fingerprinting him, they noted the leather jacket and they also noticed black gloves. So they were like, well, maybe this is the same guy.
Also, like, kudos to the department who was able to be thinking of so many cases all at once and find little
To be
commonalities.
like, oh, yeah, to like connect them.
I feel like if I were, at first, I'd be a terrible detective, but I would be so focused on like one case at a time, I wouldn't even realize that
And
they
be
might
like,
be to the same person.
this
Like,
guy trespassed in a park. We got to focus on this case.
yeah, yeah. I no, like I would not even think that like, oh, maybe he's also the guy who did this other thing with the other case we're paying attention to. So I appreciate that they were overlapping and seeing if there was any commonalities.
Well, you won't appreciate it for long, but I'm glad you
Oh,
appreciate it for now.
never
Um,
mind.
after police had arrested him, they noted his leather jacket, black gloves, did the kind of thing of like, oh, maybe it's the same guy. So when they brought him into court, they brought Sarah Bost along to look and see if maybe she recognized anyone.
Hmm.
So Ronnie, had been a suspect in an investigation a year earlier in 1975 when his social security card had been found at another rape and burglary crime scene in DC. However, it turns out he had actually been innocent because his wallet had been stolen and someone had taken his social security card, which I'm learning now maybe I shouldn't carry my social security card around in my wallet.
Took
Should have
30
learned
years.
should have learned that a long time ago, but
30 years.
it took me until now. And so someone had taken his social security card and then committed a crime. And so he ended up being uh, innocent of that. So he had nothing to do with it. But
Okay, never mind. I feel awful.
why?
Just because I was like, oh wow, like I was just so ready to like get this guy in jail.
Well, we don't know what's happening yet. Or
I know. I as the story goes so far, I don't know. Just keep going. Just keep
well,
going.
I think I also primed you to say you'll regret it. So it's my fault. So anyway, he had been a suspect in investigation. Now he's being arrested for this trespassing case. And a disguised boss points him out to the police and says, "It's him." She later explained, "There was no doubt in my mind that this person, Ronnie W. Long, was the person who entered my house." So, returning to the police station, police allegedly put Ronnie Long's picture amongst a series of other suspects, and again, Boss chose his picture out of the lineup. It's worth noting, though, that Ronnie Long was the only one in the images who was wearing a leather jacket.
Okay.
So I feel like that also kind of, you know how when, I don't know how much crime TV you watch, but you know how when they do
I
those
watched
lineups.
none.
Okay, well,
You are my
me-
crime source, and that's it.
Okay, well, fun fact, a lot of times in the crime show lineups, I say crime show because I don't know how real this is to how true this is in real life, but if the if the victim describes, say, like a tattoo on the person's wrist, they will put it on everybody's wrist, so it's not
Oh,
like,
okay.
oh, that's the, you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I just saw an episode where that happened. So in my mind, I'm like, they should have put everyone in a leather jacket, because you can't just say, because if
Right.
you know the attacker had a leather jacket and then you're looking at 13 guys and only one's wearing a leather jacket, like, you're primed to be like, well, that's the guy, right? Like, it just doesn't
Exactly.
track to me that that would be a fair way to go about it, but whatever. So she says that's definitely him. She is fully convinced, and Ronnie Long quickly becomes suspect number one in the investigation. However, he had an alibi. So on the night of April 25th, he was at home with his mom speaking to his girlfriend and his young son on the phone. His attorneys also pointed out to investigators there was a lack of any evidence tying him to the crime scene. Basically, the only evidence that prosecution had to work with was Boss' adamant certainty that that was her attacker. That was like the only real piece of evidence they had. So there are a few red flags already, but here is the first big one. So the initial statement, remember, you noted it too, at the hospital, she said her attacker was, quote, yellow or a really light-skinned black male. Well, Ronnie had
Yep.
very, very dark skin, and so that was the first kind of like, this doesn't fit her description.
Wow, this whole time I was really just imagining that he at least looked
Yeah,
like
he
the
at least
person she
looked. Yeah,
Wow,
like it
okay.
fit the description. Nope. So exactly, that was the first like big red flag of like, wait, this doesn't even fit her description.
You just saw leather jacket and fucking went for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
But her accusation was enough for him to be trialed for the attack. So a date was set for September 27th, 1976. And there's a website with an article written by Ken Otterberg, and it outlines how the summer before the trial was like a big mess, basically. So it was full of demonstrations and protests surrounding his arrest. The Cabarrus County Sheriff and other members of law enforcement reviewed a list of potential jurors, and they kept disqualifying people from being called for jury duty, but they never kept a record of why. They would just kind of dismiss people, and they didn't say why. But the 49-person jury pool only contained 2 Black residents, and an all-white jury ended up being seated for the trial.
Wow.
And at the time, Cabarrus County was approximately 20% Black. So it was like totally not, no, completely just a big, big shit show to begin with.
Wow. Okay.
So the protests saw 300 people rallying outside the courthouse. Protesters shouted, "We're going to let them rich white folks that run this town know they're going to free Ronnie Long." Another warned, "We're going to let this Klansman judge get an idea. We're going to start dealing with all these racists." It just was a huge mess. A
Oh my
huge mess
God.
protests, just very controversial from day one. And that was even
Yeah.
before the all white jury was announced. So when that was announced, obviously more fuel was added to the fire. And it almost felt like Ronnie Long was being like persecuted before the trial had even begun. So
Wow.
as the trial began, courthouse tension was like super high. On the side of the defense, all the spectators were black, and on the side of the prosecution, all the spectators were white. It was just like very
Heated.
heated, split
Wow.
down the middle. Um, and then again, on top of that, the jurors were also all white. And in court, Boss testified to the jury that she was certain that Long was her attacker. However, oddly enough, she once again changed her testimony from her original statement by saying her attacker definitely had a mustache, which is something she never said in the original
Oh, come
statement.
on. Okay.
And of course,
Sorry.
Ronnie had a mustache. So it's like,
Okay.
where did that detail come from? That wasn't even part of the original statement, but
So I'm torn. Also, I'm eating a Jolly Rancher, so sorry.
no, go for it.
Um,
Live your dream.
but I'm torn because it's like I understand when you're traumatized and something horrible's happened to you. You may not know all the details. You may not remember everything, and you're just trying to piece it together. But also, this is feeling a little too coincidental on the side of Ronnie as well. Of
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
so I feel for her, but also I feel for him in
yes,
very
it
different
seems
ways.
like this is being taken advantage of by the powers that be, and it seems like they led they led her into this situation to be.
Mm-hmm.
They said he might be here. He's wearing a leather jacket. Is this him? She said yes. I mean, they should have just said this is the initial statement. We should stick with that. Witness testimony, as we know, is like so not reliable. Um,
It also feels like they should have just ran with original protocol at this point. Like it just,
yes,
yeah. So
it's just like not reliable to be adding details later on once you already have somebody in mind that you're saying, oh yeah, he definitely had a mustache. It's like, since when? Since you saw
mm-hmm.
Ronnie? Like that doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't fit. So um according to clclt.com, which is like a local Charlotte publication, Ronnie's girlfriend and the mother of their 2-year-old son took the stand testifying that Ronnie had called her just after 9 p.m. and spoke to her for about 45 minutes, ending the call around 9:45, which was the time the victim said the attack took place. And apparently Long's mother also recalled interacting with him during that time frame, testifying that he came home around 8:30, went upstairs to his room, talked to his girlfriend, then his son was on the phone, and
Mm-hmm.
his mother even picked up the phone and talked to her grandson for a few minutes. And he stayed on the phone a little while longer, and he came downstairs about 10:25 and told her he was heading to a party in Charlotte. So like basically according to both of their testimonies, there was no way he could have gotten out of the
Right.
house in that time
For
and
sure.
attacked somebody by 9:45 and gotten back into the house. It just didn't fit.
Okay.
So during the trial, Ronnie's defense team brought up that hospital records indicated that the victim fought off her attacker. Again, we should go back to the hospital records the day this happened, when everything was written down, her testimony was taken. Like, that's the most reliable. Months or years later, that's not the time to be like
Yeah,
coming
you
up
have a
with new
statement from when it
details.
just happened and
Yes,
like
exactly.
when he did not have a mustache. And
Yeah, when he
also he
suddenly
was
didn't have right
like yellow and also light skinned, but also dark skinned later. Like
and grew a mustache sometime. Yeah.
just like it's just all over the place.
Excuse me. Yes. So again, hospital records indicated that the victim had fought off her attacker, even bending back her fingernails, trying to scratch him.
I
I'm
get
sorry.
it. I get why you have to say it though.
But witnesses testified that Long was completely unscathed when they saw him. They saw no scratches, no bruises, no blood on his body. But unfortunately, none of this amounted to anything because despite Ronnie's alibi, the key points made by the defense, and the fluctuation in Boss' statement, the fact that Bost had identified him in a courtroom was a clincher for the jury. And on October 1st of 76, Ronnie Long was found guilty of the
Fuck.
crimes. I told you, it's a bummer, against Sarah Bost.
And
So
was like his defense just not good enough because it was all
no,
hearsay, or
I
because
mean,
it was like
no,
because
just the jury just decided it's not good enough. I mean, they made all the above points. They said she's changing her testimony. They said he has a full alibi. He had no scratches on him. There's nothing tying him to the scene, but because she said that's the guy, they just kind of, I mean, it sounds so like Salem witch trial, like you can't talk your way out of it. You know what I mean? Like it sounds so impossible to
Wow.
win.
You're right. This was a bummer.
Sorry.
Is
So
there, did we, well, you just go ahead first.
don't ask
I'll,
me any questions because I don't want to answer them now and just make it worse for everybody.
Perfect.
So,
I get
does
it.
that answer your question? Okay, great.
It sure does.
So
It actually sure does. Yeah.
So on October 1st, he was found guilty of the crimes against Sarah Bost. The spectators erupted. One half was relieved, the other was pissed, obviously. As James Fuller, Ronnie Long's defense attorney, would comment, whites cheered, blacks jeered, and cried in outrage. So Ronnie Long was sentenced to 2 life sentences and was quickly sped off to the Harnett Correctional Institution in Lillington, North Carolina. And as we can probably guess by now, he wasn't going there thinking like, oh shit, I got caught. He was thinking, I had nothing to do with this. I'm innocent. I know it.
2 life sentences.
2 life sentences.
You know, it'd be a fun game. And by fun, I mean literally
terrible.
So not fun.
Just like fun and fun fact. Like the
it's just
of fun.
Every time you cover a story that's like clearly based in racism, you should just also talk about a white person who got the same charge and how little time they did in jail.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of those examples of like drug charges and marijuana possession. And
I have a hunch a white man would have not gotten 2 life sentences with
no.
zero evidence that they were there.
With an all-white jury, yeah, probably not. So because of his innocence and the belief that the real truth would be revealed eventually, he assumed like, I'm going to be in jail for a little while, but we'll work our way out of this. But as we know, the American justice system isn't quite all it's cracked up to be.
It's not?
I know. I need you to sit down for this. Oh wait, you're already
Hang on. Oh my God.
I don't want you to choke on your Jolly Rancher, but I have some big news for you.
My Jolly Rancher is an anti-Jolly Rancher, by the way. I am the last thing I'm feeling right now is Jolly. It's not doing its job. It's not working.
Oh, I thought you meant you finished it, but no, it's just not doing its task.
It's just a rancher. It's just a sad rancher.
It is kind of a rancher. We don't need another candy break. I'm sorry.
Well, to make this happy at the end, we'll look up the etymology of Jolly Rancher.
Actually, that's a fun idea. Good idea.
Yeah.
So, he thinks, oh, it'll be a few years and hopefully we can work our way out of this. Well, nope, because Ronnie basically spent several decades of his life behind bars.
Wait, so it never even got...
So just, I'll tell you.
Oh, Christine.
So, outraged and wanting to seek, obviously, real justice, Ronnie Long's team worked to file petitions for the court to re-examine the evidence, but no matter how much he and his lawyers continued to fight for his innocence and freedom, no one was having it. No one took it seriously. The first breakthrough that happened was in 2005, 30 years after his trial.
Oh my God. That's the first.
The first step.
Motherfuck. Okay. Sorry, I keep hitting my microphone.
Well, I mean,
out of anger, I just want
to
swat
blame you
something
for that. Yeah.
Okay.
So in 2005, first step, a petition was submitted to review the biological evidence from the crime scene because we got DNA testing now.
Mm-hmm.
So thankfully, the judge in charge of that petition granted the review of all the evidence, and investigators got looking into like anything that could have been preserved that would have DNA evidence on it and might exonerate him. Interestingly, there was a whole lot of evidence filed by a Detective Van Eisenhower that, fun fact, hadn't been flagged at the original trial. For example, there were hair samples collected at the crime scene that didn't match Long's from day one.
Oh my God. Wow. So it's just blatant racism. Just
bad news.
Evidence that it's not even like you didn't have evidence. It's that evidence countered the entire argument.
Exactly. Like they wanted to put him away for this, whether the evidence proved it or not.
Okay.
There was also clothing fibers that didn't match Long's, and fun fact, the burned matches I mentioned did not match any of Long's matchbooks, which he had on his person, and they looked at and none of them matched up.
Whoa.
So,
oh my God. Wow. It just got, you're right, so much worse.
Darker. Yep. None of this evidence had ever been shared with the jury. In fact, when Detective Van Eisenhower took the stand in the trial, he said he had only taken Long's shoes and shoe impressions. So, like, blatantly lying on the stand.
So again, the protocol was just completely ignored in a very different way.
Totally
Okay.
thrown in the trash. It was also flagged that originally there was existence of a rape kit that also wasn't presented at the trial. But unlike the evidence, this just kind of had vanished, which not shocking to me that a rape kit just never resurfaced and
Yep.
disappeared and was never tested. So that's the least shocking of all this, I guess. But according to CLCLT.com, in a pretty incredible turn of events, the original prosecutor who had been working for Bost to put Ronnie Long away now made a point to testify on Long's behalf. And he admitted that he didn't remember seeing Eisenhower's reports, saying if he had seen them, he would have turned them over to the defense, even though it worked against him. So, seemingly,
Mm.
if he's telling the truth, this was the police just not sharing the evidence with the prosecutors or anybody,
Whoa.
just hiding it.
Oh my God.
So, when Long found out about all this, which turns my stomach to think 30 years later, you find out that all along they had somebody else's hair and clothing fibers, not yours. He said, I wish I had known this in 76. Lord, I wish I had known this in 76. It's just heartbreaking. But even with all this new evidence, the courts were still just rejecting his petition to appeal this. The county superior court ruled that it didn't matter about the new items. They wouldn't have changed the jury's mind. They said, okay.
What?
Yep.
Wait, who said that?
The county superior court.
It wouldn't have changed. So that's a racist person right there.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, in case anyone didn't catch that, like, oh, so it wouldn't have mattered no matter, even if there was evidence proving it was not him.
They're just basically saying, oh, it wouldn't have made a difference. Just throwing it out. Keep him in prison.
keep wanting it to blame this this whole story on one racist person who like didn't hand over evidence.
No, it's the system. We all know it.
I know.
Unfortunately.
I
However,
just keep wanting there to be like someone to blame, not like a whole fucking thing to blame. It's just
welcome to
angering
America.
I know.
Yep. So, however, one judge, Stephanie D. Thacker, decided to open an appeal to the entire Fourth Circuit. So at least we got Steph on our side.
Of course, a woman. Shocking.
However, so Long's case was then returned to the district court for a retrial. And at this point, it was now 2016. So this is 11 years later that finally they're getting this. They've petitioned to re-examine the evidence. And it took 11 years to get it back on trial. So in 2016,
oh my
Stephanie,
God.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Okay.
In 2016, Stephanie D. Thacker wrote, that evidence has now trickled out, revealing the truth that Mr. Long has declared for decades. He should not have been found guilty. Today, the court remands to give the state yet another opportunity to disclose the evidence it should have disclosed nearly half a century ago. Based on the record in this case over the last 15 years, I would not be surprised if more evidence does turn up. But since the evidence is sufficient today to grant Mr. Long the relief he has so long pursued, I would not wait for further proceedings on remand. 44 years is an unconscionably long period to wait for justice. It is time. So Ronnie was released from prison on August 27th, 2020. So like less
not
than
even a year ago.
Yeah. He exited the prison wearing a 3-piece suit and a COVID mask that read "Free Ronnie Long." So that alone is just such a jarring description. He went into prison in 76
and came out when we were using
with a
COVID masks.
Like near the end of the year. You know, I mean, it's...
Dare I ask how old he was?
Oh, I'll tell you. So his family and supporters, whom Long described as his inspiration, were there to greet him after, I mean, decades. So he told reporters that for his first meal out of prison, he wanted macaroni and cheese, beef ribs, a salad, and some lemonade. I'm like, get this man a bottle of your finest champagne, please.
Oh my God, give him Dom Perignon and then also literally like a house made of mac and cheese. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Oh, also that, yeah.
House made of mac and cheese. Oh my God. So Long also commented on how the justice system failed him. He said, I'm disappointed really in a system that is supposed to be about right and wrong. One day I believed I would be standing where I'm standing right now, and I never gave up that hope. Never give up. So
that's
unfortunately,
so fucking sad.
Yeah, it gets worse. So unfortunately,
what?
so it's like his story. Well, I'll just tell you. Unfortunately, during the 44 years he had been incarcerated, his grandmother, two sisters, and father had all died. His mother, Elizabeth, also died 6 weeks prior to his release,
Oh
and her
my God.
last words were, "Is Ronnie home yet?" I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm in trouble now, Em. I'm sorry.
Christine, that's just so sad. It's
Yeah,
just so sad.
it is. Um, Long commented on this saying, "I wanted her to be a part of this. I hated that she's not here. Hopefully she's watching down on me. She can tell my dad and my sisters that I made it out." He
Uh,
didn't do anything. He trespassed in a park, quote unquote, trespassed in a public park, whatever that even means. Like literally, whatever that means, he walked in a park at dark. That's it.
I
And his
can.
wallet was stolen.
And
Fucking awful.
how many white people do you know who have trespassed through a park?
Well, yeah, me
Literally me.
raising my hand. Yeah. Who carries their social security card in their wallet? Me.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So Long's release came on a special day for his wife, Ashley. It was actually her birthday. Interestingly, the couple had originally met in October of 2013. Ashley was a criminal justice and criminology student at the University of North Carolina and had written to Ronnie wanting to help and included her phone number in her letter. And after multiple letters back and forth, she realized she was developing feelings for him.
Hmm.
So she remembers that a few months after their meeting, while she was sat in McDonald's using the free Wi-Fi to work on Long's case.
Okay, fair.
Tell me you're in college without
Yeah.
telling me you're a broke college student. Yeah. Um, so she was working on the case at a McDonald's and her phone rang. It was him on the other line, and she blurted out, "I think I'm falling in love with you, and it's weird." Can you imagine?
Yo. Okay, but can you imagine a phone call like that? That'd be so nice.
And then he responded, "I'm like, the old man had some game, I guess."
Oh my gosh.
She suggested they get married. So
What
Long
a
was
suggestion.
what a suggestion at the
Like just
McDonald's.
hey, I'm at McDonald's. Also, I love you. Also, marriage? What do you think?
Also, my free Wi-Fi is running out. You need to answer now. This is the most romantic proposal at the McDonald's.
It's a
So
McMarriage.
it's Jesus Christ. Oh, that's bad. Oh God. Okay, so they got McMarried, even though nobody in either of their families or attorneys supported this. And they were married on August. They were McMarried on August 18th, 2014. Her devotion has no bounds, apparently, because she even has tattoos that say the following: "Free Ronnie Long, Ronnie's prisoner number, and May 10th, 1976, which is the date that he was pointed out by Bost in court."
Wow.
Laurel
Okay, but
shirt.
that's a homie though. Like she
Oh,
is
yeah. She's
that's
committed.
I'm so glad that he found somebody.
Yeah, she's fucking committed, and she helped him get out, which is the coolest part. So
Yeah.
Ronnie's release was considered by Ashley as the best birthday present in the world, and she said, "I think I'm still dreaming."
Oh.
And now they live together in Durham, North Carolina. How nice is that?
How
So
old is he?
okay, so let
I
me see
just
if
want
I
to get
have
mad
the
again
age.
that he was
He's 65, and he
wow,
was in
his
prison for 44 years. So what,
I mean, I know
21?
44 isn't your technically your whole life, but you're
20. He was 21 when he was incarcerated, and now he's
so
65.
much of your life was taken from you. Because
So
for what?
he quotes about it actually the exact in a very eloquent way that I probably couldn't do. So I'll just read that to you. He's still, of course, battling a major injustice, which is that despite being wrongfully imprisoned for 44 years on a rape conviction, North Carolina is only compensating him for 15 of those years. They don't even give him the macaroni house.
Oh my,
Um,
I mean, that's crisis one, I think. No, I'm just kidding.
that's first
I'm
of
just
all,
kidding.
yeah, that's the least they could
It's
fucking
crisis
do.
number 3, I think, at least.
It's crisis. It's a crisis. Let's put it that
Jeez,
way.
15 out of so not even all like
Not even half,
a third, barely a third.
barely a third. So, by North Carolina, anyone wrongfully convicted of a crime can receive $50,000 for each year they were in prison. But the catch is that it caps at $750,000. So that means that Long, who is 65, will not be compensated for 29 years of his time in prison.
Oh my God. And wait, I'm
29.
sorry. Hang on. So the rule is if you were wrongfully imprisoned.
Yes. You
Maybe I'm just like stupid when it comes to the economy, but why on earth should there be a cap to that? Why, like,
you'd
I
think there shouldn't be, but just legally they put one on there. So
legally they should take it off. I don't
legally they should take it, but
Holy
legally he shouldn't
shit.
be there to begin with. So
Okay, well, there you
I
go.
don't think legally changes anything. But Long told USA Today, "You took my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and my 50s, and you're still talking about how this is worth that."
Oh my
So,
god.
although what happened to Sarah on April 25th, 1976, Sarah Bost, it should not have happened. Obviously, it was horribly traumatic, something nobody should ever go through. What happened to Ronnie Long also should not have happened.
No.
In reference to the National Registry of Exonerations, Black Americans make up 40% of known exonerations, and Black folks are also 7 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of murder than white folks. And this wasn't even a murder trial, just fun fact.
No. Nope.
Um, so that's that horrible bummer of a story. I mean, I'm very happy he's out. Clearly, this is a recent update, but it just makes you think of all
Oh,
the people who are still
it makes my
wrongfully
stomach churn.
imprisoned.
I
Yeah,
feel ill. That's really awful.
it's
That's
disgusting. And it just makes you think, like, how often does this happen? A lot. And there's nothing you can do to make up for it. I mean, when someone loses,
I can't even, there's no way you could process what
no.
he's gone through and what he's lost.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's that. Fun fact.
Great.
Sorry.
Thank God we've got a whole other story for you to potentially bum me out after we record this.
And what's a Jolly Rancher? Tell me quickly.
Well, I did find out that so I found out something also disgusting about Jolly Ranchers as it was in my mouth, which freaks me out, is that it is not vegan.
What's in it?
Oh, because it's gelatin. Okay, so you know what's in gelatin.
Oh, I know what's in. I mean, it's still disgusting, but yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of candy.
And apparently there is a whole crisis about the fact that the lemon Jolly Ranchers have been discontinued a couple years
What the fuck is
ago.
a lemon Jolly Rancher? I didn't even know that existed.
I don't know. I thought you'd care because of lemon. But so the reason it's called Jolly Rancher is because it's meant to suggest a friendly Western company.
Oh, kind of like the Jolly. Isn't Jolly
Jolly Green
Jolly
Giant?
Roger? But Jolly Rogers is like Jolly Roger is like the
drink?
pirate symbol. No.
Oh, I'm thinking of Roy Rogers. Never mind.
Stop it. Jolly Roger is like the flag that a pirate ship has.
With the little the skull.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Skull and crossbones.
What is it to imply that they're friendly pirates who won't
That's
steal
what
all
I'm
of your stuff and
saying.
kill you?
That's what I
Well,
don't totally get.
apparently that's
It
what a
means they're
Jolly
about
Rancher's
to
about.
attack.
The
So,
happy cowboy, and that's
all
what you
right.
should feel like when you eat it. Apparently,
I
felt
mean,
like neither of those things, by the way, while that was happening.
you were eating horse hooves. Cool.
And also listening to like just the worst
thing that ever happened. Yeah.
racist story of the day.
Cool.
Well, wherever you are, what was his name again? Ronnie Long.
Ronnie Long.
I hope you're well. I don't know if you'll ever hear this. Probably not, but
No, I hope you don't ever have to think about this case again, honestly.
I hope that everybody who is listening sends you the best energy in the whole
Yep.
world. And
Yep.
I'm so sorry.
Yep.
And also maybe some Jolly Ranchers, I guess.
Don't. Let's find you something better. Maybe like some mac and cheese.
Oreos are vegan.
They are. I know. So are Twizzlers.
Oh, fun.
Fun fact.
Okay. Well, anyway, now that we've completely derailed, thank you everyone for listening. And also, please go give yourself some comfort food or something after that story. Enjoy your day. And
that's
why
we
drink.
For sure. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Okay. I'll save mine.